Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Allison Rouse, author of this little guy. Not so little, 573 pages, and it's only half the story, you guys. But this right here, and these little books as well, you guys, where you can get that merchandise, everything, down in that description. So go down like it's your last day on earth and fiddle about. Because fiddling about is half the fun of going down. All right, and as always, thank you so much, you guys, for everything that you do for this channel, for having my back, for all the wonderful comments, everything you guys have been just bringing to not just this channel, but to my life. And welcome to all the new people who are joining us, being part of this family here. Thank you guys so much. And you lurkers too. Gotta love the lurkers, because you guys do a lot for this channel as well. So appreciate every single one of you. And today, you guys, speaking of a lot of you guys contributing to this channel, of course, we know Desiree, who has been on this channel plenty of times. I've interviewed her and her brother. She's talked about her dad, who is Willie Nelson's guitar player. She and I were having a conversation, and she had sent me a link to the disappearance of a certain rock star that we're going to talk to, but it inspired today's episode to talk about the disappearances of rock stars in history. And I don't mean just kind of disappearing to do acid in the desert and stuff. I mean like disappearing. Walked away, whether they're still alive or not, could have been a question, stuff like that. So everybody, thank you so much to Desiree for giving us today's subject, because it also made me think of a certain movie. Okay, so I'm just going to have a Bloody Mary, because sometimes things end up in Bloody Mary ways. So everybody grab your Bloody Marys, kick up your feet, and let's have a cocktail and rocktail. Cheers, big ears. I forgot to put pepper in it. And I got to go to the store too. Go by the liquor store, but forget to go by the grocery store. I got to call Instacart. But anyway, okay. So, we're going to talk about rock stars that have gone missing. And kind of when she sent me the link to this one rock star that's the 25th anniversary of his disappearance, it made me think of this movie, Still Crazy, with the band Strange Fruit. And I was like, wow, this kind of really reminds me of him. But it wasn't really Syd Barrett, because it just really cool movie. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. You can watch it for free on Tubi or, YouTube, all kinds of stuff. You can watch it here, stuff like that. So, yeah, check it out. If you haven't seen it, it's a really cool movie with actors you will definitely recognize, and a really great little story with a happy ending, for the most part. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to kind of start off with Syd Barrett. And we're going to talk about his disappearance, but we're going to kind of talk. So this is the summer of 1966, and I didn't know this about Syd Barrett. He and David Gilmour went to France in August of 1965 and visited the home of Pablo Picasso, whose son was a student in Cambridge, where Syd Barrett was from. So I had no idea about that, but how cool, to go to the Pablo Picasso's home. I personally am a fan of Picasso's earlier works. Everybody has his later works. That's how I associate him the most. But when you see Picasso's early works, wow, just amazing. He was a classically trained artist. So he and David Gilmour went to the home of Pablo Picasso, and the pair were briefly detained by the Saint-Tropez police for busking. So can you imagine 1965 walking down a Paris street or a French street, wherever they were, wherever the fucking home of Pablo Picasso was. But can you imagine walking and then you look over and there's fucking Syd Barrett and Dave Gilmour? That's like watching Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield just sort of jam on the corner in Soho or something, And nothing wrong with busking. There's a lot of amazing musicians who busk and who do some really cool stuff. So I love it, and they make good livings. So the band's music style was based on, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and he created his famous mirrored guitar at the time while he was in France at Picasso's home. So that's pretty cool. He became, I'm trying to find stuff on his disappearance. And it was really kind of messed up. Do you guys know how Syd Barrett was fired? Because he was getting into a lot of drugs, toward the first few years of Pink Floyd and stuff. that were kind of, his mental stability was already shaky as it was, as we know now. It probably wasn't to do with the drugs. It was probably the way he was born, because we understand mental health a lot better these days than we did back then. So he was just kind of unreliable for recordings, for gigs, stuff like that. And Roger Waters and David Gilmour, they were all going to pick him up for this gig they were going to, and they just decided not to. Just went on without him. Not a word. And David Gilmour and everybody, he looks back on it and he's like, yeah, we were young, kind of stupid. They were teens. They were early 20s. They were young men. He was like, well, we were just trying to survive in the music business. And thank God they did. Because, you know, Pink Floyd has some really amazing music with Syd Barrett, but they wrote their most famous stuff after. And, you know, they even went as far to help Syd Barrett to produce his solo albums, which I like a lot of Syd Barrett's solo stuff. My friend Andy sent me some burned CDs sometime. And where was it? So 1968, solo artist. Okay. So this is about 1968 when Syd and Pink Floyd officially departed. And like I said, they just sort of didn't go pick him up for a gig and never picked him up again. So that would kind of play on my mental health too. It sucks as it is, but when you're in that kind of, and you're using psychedelics that are not good for your mental health, then yeah, probably going to fuck with his head a little bit. And he would go like, and he was just wasting money left and right, buying shit at Harrods, giving it away, like an 800-pound TV. And in the 60s and 70s, an 800-pound TV was a pretty fucking big deal. You know, so he was just sort of giving stuff away, calling people up, come get this shit. And he took up very little music activity. I'm trying to get to the... I don't know what year he first kind of walked away from London and stuff, but I know he came back in 1982 and just kind of closed up his apartment, gave everything away, just ended his life in London and as Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd. His name was actually Roger. That's who he was born. So I know he just, in 1982, he came back, he just sort of gave everything away, said fuck it, walked 50 miles. 50 fucking miles, walked that shit. 50 miles to Cambridge, to his mom's house, where he became a recluse. He started painting, just started kind of doing his own thing. And I think his mental health really is what got the best of him. I think it probably did get a little better after he went to Cambridge to his mother's, and that's where he lived and died. He passed away in 2006 of pancreatic cancer. But David Gilmour said something really poignant. I think it was David Gilmour. He said something really poignant. He said Syd Barrett died before he died of pancreatic cancer. And I think probably he might have been manic depressive, you know, something like that, because, like I said, the psychedelic drugs were really weighing heavy on him. And he just, the way David Gilmour said he died before he actually died in 2006, just made me think that some people, they can't handle fame, but when your bandmates just sort of toss you out like that, there goes your self-worth. There goes your trust. There goes everything. And maybe Syd never recovered from that. And I would love to see, he has some solo albums that he did that were never released that I would love to hear. He's got some songs that he wrote while he was in Cambridge. I don't think I've ever seen his paintings. I'll look up, and if I do, I'll put him right here to see if there's any Syd Barrett paintings, because he became a well-known, respected artist. So that's cool, you know. And so this movie, Still Crazy, I kind of think it does gear more towards the Pink Floyd story, but I think it has to do with the other guy's story as well that had the 25-year anniversary recently of his disappearance. Okay, so now I found this list that said 13 rock stars who disappeared. And quite honestly, it was a weird list of like Billy Joel just disappeared for a weekend, and they give it a Syd Barrett scale. You know, like the chick from ABBA, she just sort of disappeared. That was a 4. David Bowie, he was a 6. but they disappeared from the music scene and from playing concerts and stuff like that. Didn't just disappear like Syd Barrett did, right? So for many years, Sly Stone, this is one who was kind of on the seven. So by the mid 80s, and we all know Sly and the Family Stone and stuff, and they had a lot of really great songs, rocking out, playing around in the 70s and 80s and stuff, just having a good time, living the high life. Well, Sly Stone battled drug problems through much of the 70s. By the mid 80s, his career had ground to a halt. And he just went off the radar, just disappeared. We could have been walking down the street in the 90s and never known. Just like Syd Barrett. But a lot of people did go looking for Syd Barrett. So they would go out looking, they would never rarely, I think 2 people maybe caught a glimpse of him in all that time who went out there looking for him. The town wasn't going to give him away. People who knew him weren't going to give him away. His mom certainly wasn't going to. But back to Sly Stone. So Sly Stone shocked everyone by turning up at the band's at the band's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993. But he disappeared again right afterwards. In 2006, he popped up during a tribute to his music at the Grammys. We hate to be cruel to a legend, but he wasn't looking or sounding his best. Last year, a report emerged that Stone was virtually homeless and living in a van. But his team issued a complete denial. Because there's always going to be those, oh, he's homeless, he's down on LA Skid Row or wherever, he's doing this, doing that. Someone's always going to pretend. Ask Peter Criss. There was a whole, we'll do an episode on that, on imposters of rock stars. Because there was this guy who was pretending to be Peter Criss from, Kiss, because Peter Criss kind of went off the radar after he left Kiss for a while. And he even went on talk shows saying he was homeless. People were helping him out. These girls were starting to sleep with them. And it was just some random homeless guy. Because nobody knew what Peter Criss looked like without the makeup. But anyway, so back to Sly Stone. Is that really a disappearance? Do I think he was homeless? No. Because, there was a pretty steady income. Would it be a huge income? No, but enough to probably keep a roof over his head. So I don't think that's a big deal about being disappearing. Meg White, yeah, she kind of, from the White Stripes, she's kind of in and out of the spotlight. Let's see Izzy Stradlin. Okay, he does a really good disappearing act because he stays disappeared. He might still do music and stuff, and he's popped up on the stage a few times, but he's not really big into doing the big tours, to being out on the road, to doing all the stuff. So he kind of did a disappearing act from Guns N' Roses, but he's made some great music. If you haven't heard of Izzy Stradlin and the Juju Hounds, you guys, check it out. Really fucking cool, bluesy. Played with a few of the guys from, Keep Your Hands to Yourself. What is that name? Georgia Satellites. So, really killer album. I haven't heard his stuff recently. I'd like to. That would be cool, so I'll have to go check it out on Spotify or iTunes, wherever it is. Now we have Simon and Garfunkel. Nobody really cared. Did anybody really notice if they disappeared? Joni Mitchell, yeah, that's a It's Giving. So these people are still in the public eye. The one was Grace Slick. Like I said, Billy Joel. Not really people who actually disappeared. They just might have disappeared to rehab. Or left the band and just fallen off the radar. But now let's get to the one I was talking about that's the 25th anniversary. And is he part of the inspiration for this movie Still Crazy? I think so. Because we all know that David Bowie was Velvet Goldmine inspiration all the way. So this is Richie Edwards, 25 from Manic Street Preachers. Really killer band coming up in the 80s, going into the 90s. Still a good band. Still really like those guys. Supposedly one of them's Banksy. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's the wrong band. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. But this is Richie Edwards. Richie was the original guitar player for Manic Street Preachers. Again, another situation where he doesn't react good to the alcohol and the drugs that he's ingesting. So let me see. I'm going to go through this article, but we're going to go through two different articles. So what is this? The scars came back too much when he drank, or so Richie Edwards explained to an interviewer in 1992. It's healing very well, elaborated the Manic Street Preachers guitarist and lyricist. A fragile grin came across his face. He proffered the arm into which he notoriously carved for real with a razor blade, very vicious of him. The faintest traces of the words were visible as a glowering welt. It always comes out nice and red if he's had a bottle of vodka. So I don't know where this article started, but it's sort of in the middle of it. Okay, so let me see when he disappeared. So this is... What? Hold on. Okay, sorry, I had to pause because this article just sort of starts in the middle of a conversation, and I can't even follow it. Whoever this guy wrote this... Yeah, no, you're trying too hard. But okay, so... He vanished on February 1st, 1995. And I do know that there's a bridge that goes into Wales. That his car, his passport, watch, whatever was found on this. Hold on. Okay, so I had to get a little frustrated because I was trying to go back to read this other article. And this article was written in 2019. It says, new evidence suggests that Richie Edwards staged his disappearance. Because like I said, they just found his car, passport, I think a watch and a couple other things by this bridge. Never to be seen again. Never. So in this, like I said, this article is by Nick Riley, January of 2019. So a new book provided fresh evidence to suggest that the Manic Street Preachers guitarist and lyricist Richie Edwards staged his own disappearance. See, this is a good disappearance story, right? Like the Sid Bear is pretty good, but I think Richie Edwards just one-upped him with this. Because this is kind of the thing, this is why it reminds me of the movie Strange Fruit, because it was a 25 years. And did he stage his own death? Watch the movie. Okay. So the Welsh rocker disappeared in 1995 at the age of 27 and has never been seen since. He was officially declared presumed dead in 2008. So you have to wait 15 years, it looks like, 13 years. But with drawn traces, searching for the truth about Richie Manic offers a series of fresh clues that suggest the guitarist may have carefully planned his disappearance. Ooh, getting good. So the book by Sarah Hawes Robert, and Leon Noakes is the first to be written with the full cooperation of Edward's sister Rachel and features unprecedented access to his own personal archives. The new evidence includes previous unreported sightings of Edwards alongside a long-held fascination with a disappearance that he apparently enjoyed since his school days. The book also details an important meeting between Edwards and a woman at Cardiff's Whitchurch Hospital who later moved to Israel. Oh, interesting. Could he have been hiding all this time? By coincidence, the link came up again when co-author Leon went for a haircut in Cardiff and started talking about Richie. The lady cutting his hair said he's actually living in kibbutz in Israel. In a kibbutz in Israel. Everyone knows. As you can imagine, it took him aback. Oh. Okay, so this gets interesting because, again, supposedly, I think it's one of the Manic Street Preachers. It's supposedly Banksy, and some Banksy artwork appeared on the wall between the Palestinian and Israel border. Interesting. Wonder if there was a visit happening. Oh. So this is getting good. We gave this theory no particular credence until Rachel raised the same idea. Yes, Richie had been going on about heading to that part of the world just before he vanished. Other new strands of evidence include the theory that Edwards may have undiagnosed Asperger's syndrome and disappeared in a bid to shut out the world as a coping mechanism. Wow. Because they didn't know what Asperger's and stuff was at that time. There are a lot of things that progressed since then. And I think they were probably just figuring it out. But wow, that's pretty interesting to know. Okay, so the book will also detail the mystery of a woman called Vivian, who was the last woman to see Edwards before his disappearance. She was in the hotel room with Richie the night before he vanished, but we haven't been able to track her down. Ooh, give it to the groupies. We know how to make those rock stars disappear. I'm telling you. I have been walking around downtown giving those guys, when they just want to get away from the road for a few days and not talk to anybody, especially in the 80s before cell phones. Yeah, go to their groupies because they can just hang out there, get lost in her world, and not talk to anybody. They'll just long weekend with the groupies. So, had to be a girl, right? So, but who was Vivian before she was in that hotel room that night? Was she someone the band knew? Was she someone that just sort of was in the background that nobody else knew? So that's a good question. I'd like to see who she is. So apparently the night before Richie was trying to give Vivian his passport saying, "I won't be needing this anymore." The book, which is released on January 31st, so it's out now for a few years, will also detail theories that he may have had to disappear after significant confrontations and an apparent fascination for reclusive authors such as J.D. Salinger. A police spokesman has since confirmed that the investigation into Edward's disappearance remains open, and that's normal, even though he might have been declared legally dead. What if he shows up again? Interesting. So he's still listed as a missing person. The case remains open, and we welcome any information the public has. His sister, Rachel Elias, has continued to campaign on behalf of missing people in her search for Edwards. Last year, she spoke out to claim that new evidence could hold the truth to his whereabouts. Edwards went missing from the Embassy Hotel in central London on February 1st, 1991. His car was found near the Severn Bridge shortly after. We were told that Richie crossed that bridge at 2:55 p.m., she said, and we have the toll booth receipts that says 2:55. So we were led to believe that there was an 8-hour window between his time of departing the hotel to cross the bridge on that same day. But it's since come to light by tracking down the person who made the bridge's time recording machines and making inquiries that it was a 24-hour clock. So that meant it was 2:55 a.m. So European time is, after noon, 12 p.m. noon, it's 1300, 1400, 1500, 1600. So that's interesting. So she continued, we were appealing to the people that have seen him at certain times in the day when actually those times are meaningless now. So that's kind of it. I'd like to read more on the book to see what was happening with that, because to me, this one is the most interesting of all the missing people. Like I said, if you guys know more missing rock stars, put it down there. Let me know. We'll do some more research. I tried to Google rock stars that disappeared, and really, like Graham, what was his name? Whose body was stolen. There really aren't ones, unless you want to, believe conspiracy theories that Elvis and Tupac are hanging out somewhere. I was there when Tupac, all that went down in Vegas. I was there. I mean, not there, but I was living in Vegas, and yeah, unfortunately. But so that is really interesting. So now you guys are going to watch this movie, Still Crazy, and compare it between Richie and Sid. Because really, up until Richie, Edwards kind of went disappearing, there were no really big rock star disappearances. I mean, besides moving out of the public eye, or no real big juicy things of where did they go, what happened, besides, Sid Barrett and I think it's Graham Nash, whose body was taken from his grave, and then his roadie or band members buried out in the desert where he wanted it buried. So besides that, there's really no crazy big stories. So I would like to know, is he in Israel or is he even closer by? Like Sid Barrett. Sid Barrett just went 50 miles away to Cambridge, but still nobody could catch a glimpse of him. Supposedly Sly Stone was homeless, but like I said, we've all heard those stories. Ask Peter Criss. I'm just laughing at the girls that really slept with him thinking it was Peter Criss, who needed a roof over his head and some money. I mean, even Peter Criss could live off his Kiss royalties. Still does, so pretty interesting stories. I really like kind of this intrigue about Manic Street Preachers, because again, I think it's Manic Street Preachers that Banksy was supposedly one of the guys from that band. And it's interesting that there is that connection in Israel, that Banksy painted the wall in Israel. And does he know where they are? Or is he Banksy? No, I don't think Richie's Banksy, but pretty interesting little kind of connection there. So kind of wonder. But okay, you guys, hope you enjoyed today's little episode. Kind of a break from the normal reading my book and stuff. Well, we like these ones, but anyway, yeah, pretty interesting. Let me know if you guys know of any other rock stars that have just poof, they're gone, disappeared off the face of the earth. Like Jim Morrison, he disappeared to Paris, but we all knew where he was. In a bathtub. Oh, I said it. Just kidding. I'm not the biggest fan of the Doors. Never have been. And I've met Robbie Krieger and them in LA and stuff, around Cy and John and everybody. But yeah, I think Richie Edwards holds the best disappearance story, you guys. Give him a hand. Maybe we'll find him. But yeah, so maybe there's a connection to Banksy being in Israel for there. We'll see. But okay, you guys. Thank you to everybody who's made it to the end of the episode with me. You guys are fucking awesome. I really love all the input, the conversations, the friendships that you guys are forming with each other, and the community that we have with our little family. You guys, thank you so much. And if you're just lurking, come on, you guys. Hit that share button. Hit the like. Everybody hit the share button. I'm almost to 2,000, you guys. I'm just over 1,500. So thank you, everybody, for getting me this far. But let's get to 2,000. I really want a plaque, but you don't get those till 100,000. And I don't. We'll take it step by step. So hit the share button. Hit the like. You guys, hit the subscribe. Become a member. Because I'm going to do some lives for members only. I've got some cool things planned out. So, all right, you guys, and hit my bells, and we'll see you next time on Cocktails and Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.